bells ringing. Welcome to the Selectmen's meeting for August 20th, 2019. We are in the Selectmen's chambers at Town Hall. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call.
Windmiller present.
Sulicio is present, and Mr. Klein will not be joining us this evening. Please join us in a Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would like to announce that the meeting is being tape recorded.
On our new equipment.
On our new equipment. We have all kinds of new stuff happening. Chairman's additions or deletions. We have one correction, well, two corrections, just typos or transposed numbers, so that the terms that are in this copy are correct for 2.2 and 2.3. We have a public comment. I believe this is a new copy. Yes.
This was in my packet.
Does yours have additions or deletions? No, it doesn't. Okay. So 2.2.
That's it?
I think we just didn't get the end dates correct on the first one. Okay, public comment period. Anyone? Public comment period. I don't want you to miss it, Linda. Okay. No one. Okay, we'll go on to appointments. 2.1, joint meeting with Sue Robbins of North Middlesex Regional School Committee regarding an appointment for a new school committee member effective August 20th, 2019, and that will go to April 21st, 2021. We have two applicants. Did you get both of them?
Forwarded them both to them.
Okay. I mean, typically what we'd do is just say, is there a nomination? I guess I'd look to you as a member of the committee, if you have.
Actually, would you like me to make a motion?
Yes, that would be fine.
So I'd like to make a motion that we appoint Robert Townsend to the North Middlesex Regional School Committee.
Second that. Second.
Okay, discussion?
This is just for the remainder of the term.
Right, so,
Correct.
what is it, about roughly 18 months?
Oh, 18 months.
It's
Okay.
left in the term.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a little, exactly,
That
it's
was
not
the-
over until 21.
Right.
Okay. I thought
So
it was
it's different than sometimes we'll appoint,
At the next election. This one is different, of course. With the balance.
and this is according to the regional agreement.
Right.
Okay, so Rob would be filling the following term. Discussion?
Go with the recommendation.
I just would like to thank both Rob and Lynn for submitting for this, because this is an extremely important position. I wish I could put both on. I think the reason I would go with Rob too is because of his experience on the committee, and I know you've got a few people that are pretty brand new.
Right. I mean, there's 9 people on the committee, so the 8 remaining, 4 of them have been there roughly like 18 months or less. 2 of them not like 4 months.
Right.
So we have a lot of new folks, so experience would be beneficial at this point, given the makeup of the current committee.
Yeah, I noticed when I was looking at the makeup of it and said, okay, but I just like to encourage Lynn in terms of her volunteerism, which I know she's really good at too. As I said, can't pick both, but, okay. Ready to vote?
Yep.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It is done. Robert Templeton.
Thank you. I'll head back to my
Thank
other-
you, and have a good meeting.
Thank you.
See you later.
2.2, appoint Irene Cogden of the to the Recycling Committee for a term effective August 20th, 2019 to June 30th, 2021.
Yep, that's, Irene's been on the committee for, I don't know,
Forever.
a number of years, forever. She's been the chair for the last 10 years. So we want to continue with that term. So what we're trying to do is just correct the fact that these terms were not reappointed when they should have been.
Okay.
So under council's advisement would be just to count forward and figure out where they would have landed, which puts Irene at 2021 to finish a 3-year term.
Okay, and do we have the others correct too?
Yeah, so Erica will be, will be the 1 year, she'll finish in 2020, that'll be her 3 years, and then Susan Gherkin is actually new.
Okay, but so
This
she'll
will be
go
a full
to,
3-year.
okay,
Yeah.
all right. So we're gonna do these one at a time. Could I have a motion, please?
I move we appoint Irene Cogden to the Recycling Committee for a term effective August 20th, 2019 to June 30th, 2021.
I'll second that. Discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Appoint Erica Art to the Recycling Committee for a term effective August 20th, 2019 to June 30th, 2020.
I move the board appoint Erica Art to the Recycling Committee for a term effective August 20th, 2019 to June 30th, 2020.
Second, discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 2.4, appoint Susan Gherkin to the Recycling Committee for a term effective August 20th, 2019 to June 30th, 2022.
I move the board appoint Susan Gherkin to the Recycling Committee for a term effective August 20th, 2019 to June 30th, 2022.
Second. The only thing I would like to say is thank you to the three of them for continuing, and thanks for Susan signing up.
Yes,
You know.
and if anybody else wants to put in a volunteer
more
response
openings?
form, yeah. Well, there is no number of committee members at this time, but they do have, the way the bylaw is written. And we hope to make changes to that in the future, but it's pretty much open.
Okay.
But they'll just have, they do have positions.
So if
Yeah,
somebody
chair,
is
vice clerk.
interested, they should put in a volunteer form.
Absolutely.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thanks, Linda. 2.5, appoint Robert Beauchamp as the maintenance technician effective August 20th, 2019, contingent upon the passing of a Cory check and a medical exam with a 1-year probationary period.
I move the board appoint Robert Beauchamp to the maintenance technician effective August 20th, 2019, contingent upon passing of Cory check and medical exam with a 1-year probationary period.
I'll second that. Any discussion?
Nope.
If I could, Madam Chair, just briefly, we had another well-qualified candidate, Mr. Beauchamp, that I think in terms of his direct experience and length of experience came up just a little shy, and I know he's here tonight. So I just wanted to thank Chris Klein for putting the second, third, fourth effort that he's put into the process. But just to recognize that Mr. Beauchamp comes just as a little more deeply qualified.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris.
Trying. I'm so glad we're getting multiple qualified people for things. This is good. So any other discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 2.6, appoint Jody Deschaines as administrative support to the Townsend Housing Authority effective August 20th, 2019.
I move the board appoint Jody Deschen as administrative support to the Townsend Housing Authority effective August 20th, 2019.
Second, any discussion?
Nope.
Jody volunteered
She
to do
did,
the extra hours.
She did.
Thank you to Jody.
and she's already familiar with a couple members because they serve as assessors that she's already providing support to.
Excellent, wonderful. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3.1, discussion regarding status update of the unregistered car complaint at 89 Wallace Hill. Apparently it looks at least as if there are unregistered vehicles there.
It does. One of them, it looks like within the last month has lapsed. If you refer you to the letter from Chief Bailey in your packets from last week when he went out and did the follow-up. He had originally met with the Lords, the tenants, and Mr. King, the owner of the property, when the complaint was originally made. Over a period of approximately a month, Mr. King removed at least one vehicle and the Lords registered another. One vehicle that was damaged severely remained, and another needed a title from the DMV that the Lords had applied for. Again, this is the chief. I was later informed by Mrs. Lord that the title had been received and the vehicle would be registered. Given the positive response by the Lords and Mr. King, I did not forward the information to the board to be issued a certified letter, which would in effect be the second certified letter after the first grace period was given. After receiving an email from the neighbor of 89 Wallace Hill regarding the unregistered vehicles, I responded to the Lord residence. There was no answer at the door, and I was unable to make contact with Mr. or Mrs. Lord. At this time, I noted the registration plate numbers on the 6 vehicles parked in the front yard and driveway of 89 Wallace Hill Road. I left the residence and ran the DMV check on the 6 vehicles. 3 were unregistered and 3 were registered. I've still not been able to speak with George King or the Lords. I left phone messages to both asking if they could call me. I've attached the RMV printouts on the 3 unregistered vehicles and am completing a report in our IMC database on the incident. I'm forwarding this information to you so that you may inform the Board of Selectmen and they may take action of sending a certified letter referenced in the bylaw. If the letter is sent, please be sure to copy me. So what you have on the attached document from the chief is that there's one vehicle that was registered until 2 weeks ago. The registration expired on 7/31 of 2019, and the other 2 have been longer than that. They go back to 16 and 07, respectively.
Okay, it's painful that I know it, but it's supposed to, we're not supposed to have more than 1 unregistered motor vehicle in somebody's yard. And that 1 needs to be
Further than 50 from
further than 50.
a lot line or the road.
From any lot line or the road.
Right.
The driveway where those cars park is not 50 feet.
Nope.
Okay? I don't know about you, but I feel like they've been given time, they've been given warnings. The law is the law. And the first letter, we're starting again with the first letter, is that what we're doing?
They had been given grace by vote of the board, so yes, this would be starting the process again.
All over again?
Correct.
But did it get resolved the last time? I thought it did.
In as much as what the chief wrote is the case, yes, they had the one piece that they were waiting on is the
Okay,
title to get rid of the junk car.
So, a new letter, and how long do they have to correct the situation?
30 days to respond back.
Okay.
So an appropriate motion would be to issue the certified letter pursuant to the unregistered motor vehicle bylaw.
I make a motion to the board send the registered letter as appropriate for the bylaw.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3-2, review, approve, sign a 1-day special license for Paul Martin. I'm gonna let you just read these, okay?
There's 3 of them, right? I move the board approve and sign a 1-day special license for Paul Martin, VFW Post 6538, 191A Main Street for September 14th, 2019, in conjunction with a baby shower with sale hours from 1 to 5 p.m. Do you have those or out of session?
I do have them.
Okay.
You want to do them out of session?
No, if he's got them, we'll sign them.
Second. Been moved and seconded, discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So that's 1.
I move the board approve and sign a 1-day special license for Paul Martin, VFW Post 6538, 491A Main Street, on September 21st, 2019, in conjunction with a 40th birthday party with sale hours from 12 to 4 p.m.
Seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Last one is review. I move the board approve and sign a one-day special license for Paul Martin, VFW Post 6-28, 491A Main Street on September 21st, 2019, in conjunction with a 40th birthday party with sale hours from 6 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Second. Discussion?
Nope.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Give us a moment.
Those two.
There's two of them.
I forget what that was. That too.
Three 3.5, review, approve, sign the request to petition the Massachusetts Police Training Council, MPTC, for a temporary waiver regarding Edward Coffin. I'll make a motion.
Sure, I move the board approve and sign a request for petition to the Massachusetts Police Training Council, MPTC, for a temporary waiver, RE Edward Coffin. I have a letter from the chief.
I'll second that. And we do have a letter from the chief and the deputy. And Jim, can you just give some background, please?
Certainly. Officer Coffin was hired most recently as a full-time officer. He comes as a Reserve Academy trained officer, having completed the Reserve Intermittent Academy in 2010. The next class that's available isn't available till November 4th for full-time academy. So during the pendency of the time between now and November 4th, when it starts, and the completion of the academy, without a waiver, he wouldn't be able to work. So based on exigent circumstances, the lack of staffing, the chief and the deputy chief have put together this packet of information to petition the training council to allow him to work under the 270 waiver, which is, it's not uncommon when you have people that haven't completed their full training yet. So it's a fairly substantive
So
packet of information.
help me understand. So if somebody's, he was a reserve officer or is a reserve officer?
He came to us as having been a reserve officer in another location.
In
correct.
another location, okay. But we want to hire him as a regular.
We have, as of your last meeting,
Okay.
you appointed him
Yeah,
to the full-time.
I discussed this with the lieutenant chief.
Okay, liaison.
Yes, so he gave me, so as he's told us before, there's several academies scattered across the state.
Yes, and
Their
they're
scheduling
not
is
always
not-
available.
So this is to bridge the gap so he doesn't have to drive 2 hours out to Springfield, or I forget where the, this gets him to Reading, so makes it a more palatable commute.
And my understanding is when we did this the last time, it takes a month or so before it takes effect?
I do
Because they
not-
have to have their board meeting first.
I do not know that, and I don't see that it's written into the documents in the packet.
Because we did this for the chief when he initially started, and there was a
Yeah,
time
his-
period.
His was a little different because he wasn't required to go through the full-time academy. He was just required to
But
do
there was still
a refresher.
a wait between when we signed it and when it came back from them as, yes, okay, fine.
Yeah, I'm not certain that the 270 waiver is the same category that he came under, was my only.
Okay. My only concern is if there is a wait, what happens in the meantime?
We're right where we are today.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, this is just trying to make it sooner than if we didn't apply for the waiver, whatever the date's gonna be.
So is he on the payroll?
He may be doing training. I could find out from the chief, but he couldn't be working shifts without having the waiver.
Yeah. Okay.
He was in the town of Harvard from 2010 onward as a reserve.
Okay.
Ready?
Ready? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3.6, review, discuss, request for support letter regarding Division of Fisheries and Wildlife to purchase 45.59 acres as presented on Assessor Map 33-97-2. Is this the one that we missed the last time?
This is the second of the two from your last meeting.
Okay.
Only the first had been listed, so we had to push this one off until tonight. This is a
Okay.
parcel off Warren Road.
Okay.
So what do we need, a support letter?
Move to send the support letter.
I move that we issue a support letter to the Division of Fisheries and Wildlife to purchase 45.59 acres as presented on Assessor Map 3397-2.
Could I just change that? Regarding Division of Fisheries and Wildlife to purchase. I don't want it to sound like we're purchasing. I want it to sound like they're purchasing.
I thought I
To
said-
move forward to purchase, for them to purchase. Do you know what I'm saying? It's just not
Support of their purchase.
in support of their purchase. Is that okay with
That's
you?
fine.
You got that?
Get it?
All right. Any other discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3.7, review, discuss management letter regarding FY 17 and FY 18 audit. Jim, I just thought that we should do this in a meeting so that you could kind of hit the highlights and explain exactly what it has in it.
Certainly. So the document you have is what's referred to as the management letter. Management letter is meant to be the narrative or 10,000-foot overview of the state of our fiscal affairs per the auditor after their review. We get them at the close of each fiscal year. More detailed information is found in the financial statements. So you'll also recall having seen the book at the close of each year, the
Really?
financial statements. This is not that. This is really for the layperson's perspective. In a document like this, what they'll do is they'll highlight any recommendations where they think you can do things differently or better. And if the case exists where they find a material weakness, they find a flaw in your internal controls or your operations, you get cited. If you get cited for material weaknesses, it's a pretty significant thing. When you have the bond rating agencies review you, if you have material weaknesses, that impacts what they'll give you for a bond rating, and it can impact what you're able to borrow funds for. Happy to report in this case that there are no material weaknesses, and over the last 4 years now, we've had no material weaknesses found. The recommendations that they make are to continue to improve monthly reconciliations, to improve compensated absences accounting records. That one, take a second just to focus on. This goes to one of the board's stated goals of having more accurate and timely time and attendance records. So this would be able to show us what everybody has on the books at the same time based on their contracts or personnel policies, whichever they come under, having been hard-coded into the software. So that'll be one of the things they recommend. It ties in with one of the things that you recommended as one of your goals as well. Next page, you'll see improved timeliness of cash receipt postings. The town response on this one is the 2017 gap in reconciliations was caused by the significant turnover in the treasurer's office and additional time needed to reconcile the outstanding receipts. The past due reconciliations were completed in fiscal 18, and for the remainder of the year, the deposit receipts were posted on a monthly basis. So we're back on track, but for this period of time, back in 17,
Right.
there was that turnover, and the auditors appropriately cited it. Next, you'll see prepare for the implementation of Gatsby Statement 84, and it's one of the federal reportings that we have to do. It spends a little bit of time discussing what Statement 84 is, fiduciary activities that will apply to the town in fiscal year 2020. It changes the way certain agency funds are to be accounted for, Currently, agency funds have no measurement focus and are simply assets offset by corresponding liabilities. The changes establish measurement focus on these activities and may require a change in how town accounts and reports these activities. Specifically, revenue and expenditure accounts may need to be added to the town's general ledger in order to maintain the newly required measurement focus. So, very deeply internal accounting issue. The town's response is that the town is aware of the new requirements of Gatsby Statement Number 84 and is taking the required steps to ensure that any and all new requirements will be implemented in a timely manner. It's not until next year, but they're just putting it on the radar screen.
Okay, so who'll be doing the accountant?
Our last Gatsby, we had farmed out. I'm not certain the depth of this
But she'll
report.
be in charge of overseeing
It's under
that.
her, yeah, it's under
Okay.
her responsibility.
Questions? Okay, thank you. 3.8, declare street grindings as surplus with no value as recommended by the Highway Department.
Madam Chair, on this issue, Superintendent Jim Smith approached me last week and said that when we do road reconstruction and the roads are planed, we have a material that's created that's gouged or scraped off of the roadway that becomes a grinding. It's an asphalt, it's basically shavings of asphalt that we use in a number of different applications from a highway and public works perspective. DCR, the state agency that owns a lot of land in town, has a lot of trails. They also use it. So we regularly stockpile a certain amount of the material, number of cubic yards of the material down at the highway barn. We have now, based on the work that's gone on to date, we have more than enough, more than we actually can handle in terms of storage. And the question then becomes what to do with the remainder that's going to still be planed off as we do additional work this late summer. It appears that the practice in the past had been that local contractors were allowed to just pull their vehicles up to the back of the town's vendor's grinder and get the material loaded into their trucks, and off they went. And my recommendation would be that that still be the case, but that we formalize the process by having a vote of the board that states once the amount of road grindings necessary to suit our municipal purpose has been achieved, all excess grindings be declared surplus. That way the vendor has the ability to have these private trucks come in and do what they need to do with it.
Okay.
Okay?
Mhm.
Do I have a motion?
I move we declare street grindings as surplus with no value as recommended by the Highway Department.
Second. Is that okay?
Perfect.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3.9, declare the following as surplus with no value as recommended by the Cemetery and Parks Commissioners. Multiple mower parts, landscape power tools, shovels, rakes, etc. Power equipment that was used for parts, weed whacker, backpack, etc. Case of old smoke detectors and a PA system. Do I have a motion?
I move we declare the following as surplus with no value as recommended by the Cemetery and Parks Commissioners: multiple mower parts, landscape power tools, shovels, rakes, etc. Power equipment that were used for parts, weed whacker, backpack, etc. Case of old smoke detectors and a PA system.
Moved in second, and I'll second that. Any discussion?
So is this just to get rid of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
We
It's
can't
been
throw anything away.
it's been
until-
scavenged sufficiently enough that there's no value.
okay.
So they need permission from us to get rid of
Correct.
anything that was an asset at some point,
Correct.
right?
Okay.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 3.10, review, approve, sign a contract with Green International Affiliates, Inc. for engineering services for the Greenville Road Bridge replacement. And we have large packet stuff. Oh, this is just to sign the contract?
It is,
Has town council looked at it
yes.
and made corrections?
It actually takes the form of their their document. We have historically now for 15 or 20 years or so been using KP's form document. This is actually Adams Firm's form document.
So the new one we got tonight?
Correct.
Okay,
And do you have it? So to sign or do it out of session?
I'm sure it's here. Yes, it's here.
Right, I move we approve and sign a contract with Green International Affiliates Incorporated for engineering services for the Greenville Road Bridge replacement.
second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Do you know when they're gonna start?
On the Greenville Road project, I do not. I know that we'll be recording the final easements on the West Meadow bridge project tomorrow. So that one should be advertised in the month of September with a targeted construction start of, weather permitting, March, April. Thank you.
311, discuss status plans for the new school year. School resource officer. Jim?
Certainly. Pursuant to several meetings and even greater number of offline discussions between Superintendent Morgan, Chief Bailey, Deputy Chief Sartell, the pathway forward is going to be that, consistent with the terms of the collective bargaining agreement, the chief will assign a school resource officer. Reasonable expectation is right now that it will continue to be the same officer that worked the position last school year, Mark Francis. One of the concerns raised by the school committee was when Officer Francis, or any officer in that regard, has a day off for training or is out sick, that there would be a period of time where there'd be no backup in the school district for community resource officer. The way that that's been attacked and will be remedied is the parties have agreed that whenever there is going to be a vacancy or an absence with Mr. Francis, that the chief and deputy will post for an overtime, strike that a detail. Actually, now I'm not certain if it is detail or overtime.
I think it's overtime.
I think it was a detail, but used for overtime.
An overtime.
So hybrid of
Detail.
both.
It'll be posted
Signing up for something extra.
as an overtime shift, either
Yeah.
as detail or straight overtime shift pursuant to the contract, to make certain that there'll be a certified Townsend police officer serving in that capacity. Additional efforts going to be made to take officers in the department that currently don't have SRO training and begin to provide some level of SRO training. So in the off chance that somebody does accept one of those shifts, they have some of that background there. Currently, I gather 3 officers that do have SRO training within the department.
Okay, so it would be just like picking up any other detail.
Any other posted shift, yeah, or whether it's overtime or detail, and I apologize.
Okay.
The chief was going to be here, but he actually went home not feeling well today.
Okay. And the money?
Right now, there's an amount of money that is budgeted within the school department budget that is then paid for by all of 3 communities on the regular formula. And it was an approximate number that was put into an agreement 3 years ago now. And what we've discovered is it's not enough to fully cover the expense of the officer that is coming out of the town. So the town is still paying the full benefit load. So the money generally, next budget cycle, we'll be having a discussion about increasing that 80 to more fully cover the cost in total of the officer. For the purpose of backfilling shifts through overtime or detail, that's also not currently covered in that $80,000. So if Officer Francis is out sick, he's still getting paid. If he's out of training, he's still getting paid. So if we're then having to backfill the shift at an overtime rate, where's that money coming from? And there's a discussion between members of the select board and the superintendent about seeing how the end of the year comes and whether we absorb it as a gesture of good faith, or whether the school absorbs it. The superintendent felt fairly confident that they'd be able to absorb it. But either way, it's going to be covered, and we'll have that
And
reconciliation
then we'll
at the end of
take
the
it
year.
up as a budget issue for the
Correct.
following year.
Correct.
And is there an effort as well? We didn't really talk about it specifically, but to change that MOU agreement.
There will be a discussion coming up shortly on the MOU, and we'll
Okay.
incorporate these changes into that document.
Good, okay. Just wanted the public to be aware that their plans are in place and we're all set for next week for school, okay? Thank you, Jim. 4-1, this is you, Town Administrator updates and report. Net meter credit.
Somewhere in this pile I have a document that I created, my report for you guys. There's one. And there's another. Thank you. So the first item, net metering credits. Well, actually, there's a first item on my report that goes before the net metering credits. I was advised by the Collins Center lead employee that they can no longer attend the 24th planned work session. They have an unavoidable family commitment. So we have the 24th this Saturday scheduled. This was in lion's share of what we're going to be addressing, but they're not going to be able to be here now. So
We have our Saturday back.
Boy, you pulled that back quickly. So much for all the other work we have on the list. I'll let you do it. Could you just reschedule
Gotcha.
that, please?
Yep. So then we get to financial updates, net metering credits. There's a letter that's come in from Nexamp. Nexamp is the developer that's developing the solar array on West Meadow Road on the Craven property. And they are going to be generating credits per kilowatt hour of solar power that they generate. It equates to 1 credit on a bill in Unitil's territory. They're looking to offer to sell to the town these credits. And their offer is a fixed discount of 15% off of the then given rate at Unitil, or a rate of 18.5 cents per kilowatt hour with a 2% annual escalator. They go on to describe the key difference. The fixed discount is indexed to actual electricity rates, whereas the PPA, or fixed rate, is escalated by a fixed 2% per year, regardless of the actual electricity rates. In both cases, the value of the net metering credit is established by the electricity rate at the project meter, which may be, and likely is, higher than the electricity rate at the town's meters. So the key to understanding the town savings is to simply calculate how many net metering credits valued at the project meter's electricity rate are needed to cover the town's annual electricity costs. So the question becomes a philosophical one for you as the board that would make this decision. Do you feel that having the 15% discount, that is, it's going to be a known thing, whatever the rate is, it's 15% less than that, or a fixed rate with an escalator, and if the cost of power goes down, you miss the boat because you're set at a fix with an escalator?
When's the last time electricity rates went down?
Not in our lifetime.
Actually, they have gone down. Actually, when I think it was when Andy went out for aggregation, just prior to my getting here, there was, I think, a 1.5 drop in the rates over the prior year, which ended up eating the margin on the aggregation. So,
Can you do some math
Board.
for us, though?
absolutely, yeah. This letter just came in
Okay.
because they're just getting set to begin construction. So, I can model it for you to show what our total consumption is, what the economics are of the two,
I
and
want to see the better deal.
run it over the 20 years. In my experience, I've seen better than 15% discounts offered and accepted. So it may be that this is just an opening salvo, but yeah, I've seen 20.
Is there a time line for this?
There's not. They intend to sell to the school district, and they intend to open up a portion to residents generally on their individual personal meters at home. But there's a big chunk that's as of yet unspoken for, and they've had it penciled in for the town. So I can run a table, I can get it to you, so it'll be sensitive. You can change the percentages yourselves and see what, a point here and there does.
Okay.
Run the 18.45 cents out over 20 years as well with the 2% escalator, and you can see, at the end of that time period, what things look like. So,
Todd?
What we did when we did ours, and Jim's right, 15's a little low, to be honest with you. But what you can also do is using PV watts 2, take the lunch latitude of where your array is, size of it, number of panels facing, angle, everything, and it'll give you a month-by-month reduction. And one credit is worth 1,000 kilowatt hours. So you break that up, and you get a decent idea, because they do update it, so the averages take in environmental changes, like we've had more rain and snow and things like that. And whatever that number is, kilowatt hours, multiply it by the what your charges are from Unitil, and take 80% off, and that'll tell you what you save.
Yeah.
It's easy
Okay,
enough
so
to
you
do.
figure it out and come with a recommendation, because that's above my pay grade.
I get the credit for my solar at home. It's $350 a month, every quarter, so it's a
That's
nice little
pretty
chunk
good.
of change.
I have a quick question, Jim, if I could. If they started putting in, is this still pre-construction?
yeah, they haven't even.
One thing I
Straight
would
crack, yeah.
suggest you look at is make sure the panels that they're putting in are PFOA, PFOS free. Because those are contaminants that are becoming more.
These
and
aren't
more.
ours.
Right, this isn't a project that's ours, it's a
It's
private
the-
array.
The
so-
planning board would have that
Yeah,
jurisdiction anyway, so.
good enough.
Okay, so, you might want to share this with planning too,
Absolutely. Yep.
please.
I believe they were actually copied on the email.
Thank you, Todd.
Yes, ma'am.
Next, we have discussion on the common sidewalks. I've got, why are you laughing?
I'm laughing because it was just so confusing to me.
And we had it, we didn't have it.
Well, no, what you had,
Really?
what you had last year was,
A bond.
you had an earmark inside of a big bond. So there was a capital improvement bond statewide that had a whole bunch of projects in it. They were basically just authorized and voted. So now they sit on the governor's desk, and he has authorization to do all of these cool things. But he can pick and choose which ones to do.
Which is why we sent those letters
Right.
saying, please
Saying,
pick us.
ours. And we are a relatively insignificant piece of the puzzle for him, so we didn't get picked. What Senator Tran did, to his great credit, is said, well, the heck with that. We're not going to play with holding it at the governor's discretion. We're going to get it actually built into the budget itself as an actual appropriation, which he did. So we have $70,000 in this fiscal year 20's state operating budget, which is available for the project. So that's real money, not waiting for somebody to release.
Did we get the check yet?
We don't. Having received this, reached out to Roger to actually have them dust off where they were in terms of their estimates, because we'll need to have, I was gonna say concrete estimate, but
We had an estimate, but we also had some local money that we put toward that
right,
too.
right. And the estimate's now gonna be outside of the window that we need it to be. It needs to be a freshened up estimate. So we'll get the hard estimate and then reach out to the appropriate cabinet official to have the funds unlocked. So
Okay.
it's good news. Senator Tran did a really good turn.
The ball's in our court in terms of, because that email that I got was not clear what they wanted. It sounded like they wanted
got
another
two.
letter.
We had two. One said we need another letter, and this one said congratulations.
Yeah, the letter is not.
Two different people.
The letter is not the beg that it was last year, it's the ask.
It's the ask. Okay, so it says,
Last year we had to beg and didn't get anything. This year we just asked for it and we
we've
get
got
it.
a rough estimate, but that still needs to go out to bid and all of that,
Most certainly
right?
does.
Okay.
So, and again, it's a cemetery and parks project proper, because they have care, custody, and control of the common. So
And, but
everything will
you
be done
work with
through.
them from a
Correct.
procurement perspective?
Absolutely. Yep.
Wonderful.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
Senator Tran.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, thank you to the full legislature, because they're the ones that approve the whole budget, including earmarks.
Next, under miscellaneous updates, at the last meeting, I referenced the idea of you considering a policy to create an audit committee. The audit committee would be comprised, well, at least in the draft that I put here, which is one that I've seen, I've worked under. It'd be a member of the select board, a member of the finance committee, and a citizen that has finance experience, preferably municipal. They would be the ones that would contract on behalf of the town. So you don't have staff members that have, like judge shopping, that know different auditors that, they've worked with. This committee above the staff level would be interviewing and selecting the auditing firm. The audit, when it's finalized, both the financial statement portion that I talked about moments ago and the management letter, when they're finalized, would go to this audit committee. The audit committee would then disperse it to the select board and the finance committee at a joint public meeting of both bodies. So it just puts, I think, more eyes on the process and
Makes
on the
it a little
document.
bit more objective.
Right, it takes the evaluation and critique of staff work to a level above staff.
Okay.
I don't mean for this to sound like it's necessary because staff aren't to be
No,
trusted with this.
but
It's
it's
just, in
just-
today's day and age, it just makes sense to have that
But
that
it's
other
for
layer.
their protection as well.
Absolutely.
It's for the staff's protection as well.
So the draft is relatively brief. It reads, "There shall be a 3-member audit committee in the town of Townsend appointed by the Board of Selectmen, comprised of 1 member of the Board of Selectmen, 1 member of the Finance Committee, and 1 registered voter in the town who has finance experience, preferably municipal. Number 2, administrative support staff to the audit committee shall be provided by the town administrator and the town accountant. So to the extent that they need documentation or guidance of any sort, those would be the 2 positions that would be available to provide that assistance. Number 3, the audit committee shall solicit, interview, and recommend to the Board of Selectmen the firm of independent auditors that is to audit and report on the financial statements issued by the town. The audit committee shall review the audit plan with the independent auditors, and upon completion of the audit, meet with the independent auditors to discuss the results of the audit and the annual financial reports. Number 4, the audit committee shall transmit a copy of the completed annual audited financials and management letter to the Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee, and with the assistance from the auditing firm, if so desired, shall present the results of the annual audited financials and management letter report to a jointly held public meeting of the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee. And lastly, 5, funding for the annual independent audit shall be budgeted in the town accountant annual budget,
Where it is anyway.
where it is currently.
Okay. I do have a question. I mean, I like the draft. I would suggest that we edit it just slightly and present it for a first reading at the next meeting. If that's okay with you.
Yeah, I'd like Don to review it as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, the only thing is the term of how long. Is it a yearly appointment?
That's a
Is
good point. It
Okay,
reads now as though
especially,
it's a sentence for life.
yeah, and I'm thinking of it in terms of if it's more than a year.
Right. So the standard
If
three
it's more
years
than a
rotating?
year, it becomes difficult because everybody's end date might not be the same, okay? I'm thinking of the two, the member of the board as well as the member of the FinCon.
Right.
So if you could figure that
Yep,
part out
yep,
and,
absolutely.
and do up a draft, that would be great. Thank you.
And then to the actual agenda, there were a couple of other items. One is, let's see, so net meter credit, sidewalks, maintenance coordinator we did, water superintendent interim. I know that,
Maintenance coordinator, no.
What was the other thing you guys just discussed on the agenda? I didn't see it.
The net meter credit?
That's what that was about, what he just was talking about?
The audit.
Audit committee?
No, it's not on the agenda, it's in my report.
The maintenance coordinator, I thought what we were going to get was an update on what are you doing from an administrative perspective.
I apologize, I was reading that as the
No.
position we already discussed earlier today.
No, that was the maintenance technician.
It's a union position. At the last meeting, we discussed that the incumbent in the position is out for a period of time. With the gentleman that was just appointed earlier tonight coming on board, and with our current employee being on board, they're going to assess what they need in terms of additional support. All of the phone numbers for the vendors, all of the contact information for the vendors is available, those that have been being used. So they're going to report back after the first week as to what they think they need in terms of additional outside support. And it may be just an outside agent, somebody.
A fan just turned on.
So it may be assistance from an outside company. It may be bringing an additional person on for in a part-time capacity. But they actually were of the opinion that they should be able to get by during the pendency of this vacancy.
Okay, I was concerned too about if something breaks, are they just calling your office?
Right now, from a staff perspective, that's what was discussed at the department head meeting last week. Correct.
Okay. So everybody knows that if something breaks or they need somebody, they call you or Carolyn, and
I got the "we need toilet paper" text at the library just last week, so yeah, we got the communication system down.
as long as everybody knows who to call for what. Great, thank you.
Sure. And then water superintendent interim. The board at a prior meeting, joint meeting with the water commissioners, took the vote to support the recommended candidate or option that the water commissioners select. I gather that you guys met last week. You have a recommendation. It was emailed over today.
The meeting was actually last night.
Okay, it was emailed over today. Did I see Adam come in?
Yes.
Yeah, Adam, town council is here. I forwarded the copy of the contract over. I don't know if you had a chance to look through it at all.
On my phone, ever so briefly, because I've been in meetings since noontime. I
Sure.
came in at about quarter of, and you got it about half an hour before that.
Right,
So
right.
I haven't given it an extensive review. I agree with a comment that you made that at least one of the two contracts was a bit sparse and appeared to be lacking a couple of typical provisions.
Yeah.
Either of them were on the standard form contract, so otherwise maybe I could have performed a quick review for tonight, but I'm
Sure.
not giving them the usual review that I would.
So specifically what Adam's referring to, the contract that we're discussing right now, which is the interim superintendent. Actually, I'll let Todd, if you don't mind, Madam Chair, because it's their recommendation, speak to it.
Basically, the primary operator duty of a superintendent is already being carried out very well by the foremen. What we wanted was someone to come in under the term interim superintendent, be a point of contact for the engineering, the two water main projects that are going on, kind of review what goes on as admin, budgetary, and stuff like that, and be the point of contact with town hall, between town hall and the water department, because they are trying to get a lot of stuff done in a short period of time. So we put that together. We had, I believe Weston Sampson did contact the department and came out briefly. Becky McEnroe is the one that we chose. She actually came yesterday to meet the board. Weston Sampson did not. She comes with a substantial record, a good record in water, both as an engineer and as a prior superintendent. She's very well versed in just about anything that we need. Didn't need so much a contract operator like Weston Sampson would apply. The primary operator, Ryan, the foreman, is doing a good job, and that's kind of what we did. I hadn't got to see the contract, 'cause like I said, we just met with her last night, so,
So how should we handle it? I mean,
Mike?
we can just simply, we already voted to sign it out of session. So I
Okay.
think as soon as Adam works out the kinks,
yeah, and she's gonna, I think she's sending her binders, she has all her insurance binders and everything like that, so she's already doing that. She's doing what we're asking her to do pretty much for another community already, so it's something she should be well versed in.
So it's just a matter of,
Dotting the i's and
Okay.
crossing the t's.
so how about this? We already voted
Yep, you're
to
good.
go with whoever you
Once Adam-
chose, okay?
once
So that's
Adam's-
not an
once Adam's
issue.
good.
Because I don't want any more delays. and I
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
not an issue, but, so as soon as Adam gives it the okay and everything is set on the legal side, then we'll be glad to sign it.
And I ought to be able to review it in the next couple of days.
That'd be wonderful, so just let us know when it's ready,
Excellent.
okay? Does
Okay.
that work?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thanks, Doug.
Update on the final cherry sheet, town and school variance. I
You
guess that's
skipped one,
HVAC.
HVAC.
Nothing's changed on that matter since our last meeting.
So has that gone to the Energy Committee?
It was one of the things that went out just prior to Mark leaving. I've not jumped into the mix with it yet, but we'll do so.
Okay.
The final cherry sheet, town and school variance against estimates. Wasn't certain if you were looking at, now that the budget has been finalized for 20 going forward, we are the same to the penny on the unrestricted general government aid.
Yeah, that didn't change.
So
That
we didn't change at all. The school is seeing a little bit of an increase, but against the expected transportation costs increase, they're probably gone backwards a little bit over where they thought they were in the spring. The news covers the fact that cities and towns are getting more money because that's the easy, sexy thing to report. But when you get down into the weeds of it, we're not really. I'm happy that we're not cut, but we're not seeing anything more than had been originally predicted back
My
in January.
understanding was we got a slight increase in pilot.
We did, but we had a corresponding increase in one of the assessments, on the assessment side.
Okay.
So we're coming out right where we were,
Okay, so at least we're
We're
not.
not hurt.
We're not hurting.
right?
That's a good thing. That's why you want to budget conservatively
Exactly.
for revenue, but, well, I'm glad the schools got a little bit more than they were expecting, but, I had the feeling it wasn't gonna be,
No, it's not gonna net
no.
positive for them at the end of the year.
I mean, rightfully so, a lot of the communities that need it badly because of the economic situations in those
But
communities.
they're still committing to be working on the formula too.
Yeah.
I'm not hopeful that that'll break in the next couple of years in any meaningful way, but they are still committing to work on it.
Mhm. Tough to get through too.
Yeah. Phone cameras, IT. I'll go in reverse order.
Cameras.
Yeah, IT is, we're all up and running. One thing that the chair and I talked about is perhaps having a set of eyes come in and review the entire work plan that was implemented. Just as a peer review, make certain that everything that we believe we've got covered is in fact covered. From a security perspective, that's been double-checked, so that's not going to be an issue. But maybe another angle that, when you're eyeball deep in it, you don't see as clearly as a new set of eyes from outside. So without any objection from the board, I'll try to get somebody to come in and do an overview of the entire project. Makes
Absolutely.
sense? Okay.
I do have one question.
Yep.
Part of the IT thing was upgrading whatever computers needed to be upgraded,
Correct.
right? And installing
365.
365,
That-
training that goes along with it.
There have been, I think there may be 2 systems still on the list to update, but I believe all the others have
2
been up.
PCs,
Two
you mean?
PCs. The others have been done. There was a lot of time spent at the library just last week on that. And then the rollout of 365 and the training comes obviously once all the actual hardware and infrastructure's in place.
Okay.
But the cloud's in place?
Yes, the backup everything is,
Okay, good.
everything's in place.
Thank you.
Then we have the cameras. You're sitting in here now, you've got cameras that, so you see red lights on some, green lights on others, so.
Red light means it's on.
No,
Red is it's not currently recording. So
green
right
is on.
right now, because I'm
That
giving my,
wasn't what I was told.
That's what Toby-
It's on, but it's not the live shot. Right now, because I'm giving my report, that camera has green light on it, because that's the live shot. So that one still has you, but it's not actually running out over the airways. Once he switches back to you guys, that'll go green.
Whatever, as long as it works.
And we'll find out. I'm sure we'll hear tomorrow morning. There's still some tweaking to do. We'll be going with a different microphone setup eventually, but we're still using the corded mics for now. All of the equipment is currently set in the Great Hall, and I think at the end of the day, you've got all of the wiring coming down in the wall between the Selectmen's office and the Great Hall, and everything is hooked into the wall from there. I think we're going to flip that and have it in the Selectmen's office instead, and set the console up in the far corner where there's space right now in the Selectmen's office, so that it's secure. Right now, the Great Hall is open. It's used by groups. We really shouldn't be having the equipment sitting out like that. It sticks out into the room, so we'd end up losing some room for people walking by during town meetings. So we're gonna, I think once everything is set, we'll just flip that cabling over into the Selectmen's office.
Okay.
So we'll work the kinks out on that as we go forward. The phones. The phones have been horrible. Go figure, they're circa 1986, and here we are 30 some odd years later, and they're dying daily. We've had a couple of technician visits over the last week where they've had to replace parts that they've cannibalized off of basically junk that they've still got in their storage. So right now the phones are up and operational, but there's no guarantee at 30 some odd years old that they're going to continue.
When's the new one supposed to be in?
The new one is supposed to be in the month of August, is still the date that I have, that originally reported out to you.
Because I don't really like the idea of us spending money on a 30-year-old system that's being replaced in a couple of weeks.
Absolutely. The unfortunate thing is
I understand you had to do it.
we gotta do what we gotta do and find it cheap. I mean, we had somebody make a ride much further than you would normally do to get a part, because it was the only place we could find it. Somebody had it.
Some antique store.
Somebody had it in a box.
End of August is next week, so.
Yep.
Is it really?
Mm-hmm.
Week after. Okay. Union negotiation start dates. We have.
I know you gave me a tentative date.
We do, and we have. I was going to introduce. We have Mr. Jones, who's the new AFSCME rep in the room in advance of a discussion later tonight. So, members of the board, you have Chair Sulicio and Vice Chair Wayne Miller.
I'm Sue. That's Wayne.
And we would normally have the clerk, Don Klein, here as well, but he's unable to be with us tonight. So, Mr. Jones has taken over as the representative for AFSCME for all of our AFSCME groups. We've got, Bobby, was it the 11th that you sent me today? So September 11th with a first looking to be 9 a.m. and that would be one of your groups, Sue. So
Of course, 9 a.m.
You had given me that.
Yeah, I know.
That berth, so.
Told you. I know.
And part of the.
And which one is that, supervisor?
That'd be supervisor. Yeah.
Thank you.
Part of the discussion tonight was just your interest in making it clear that we were waiting on dates, and it wasn't the board dragging its feet on getting to the table on these things.
No, I think both sides have been anxious to get started, but let's get some dates down and start working.
Excellent. And the one that's outstanding, actually, Bobby, I don't know if you're ready to say, is there a ratification date yet set for the clerical?
I'm waiting for a review of one other item, and then we should have a date set shortly.
Because right now
Because we gotta close that one before we can open the new one, right?
Yeah.
Correct.
So that one's still pending out there.
Okay.
Okay.
Do
And
you have a question, Wayne?
No, I'm all set.
that's all I have for you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Board announcements for events. You got something there?
Just the band concert, which is next. I don't have anything else.
Want to do band concert?
The lawn party concessions at the Townsend Military Band's Thursday, August 22nd concert on the Townsend Common will be run to raise funds to help defray the expenses of the Townsend Christmas Eve Santa Claus program. The program sends a Santa Claus to the home of every participating family in Townsend on Christmas Eve between 5 and 8 p.m. to visit with children and deliver the gift which has been provided by the family. Townsend VFW Post number 6538 and its auxiliary have conducted this program for almost 40 years, and more than 100 families have taken advantage of the service each year. It is hoped that those who have enjoyed Christmas Eve Santa visits over the years will especially support this fundraiser by attending August 22nd band concert. Donations and offers to help the lawn party will also be gratefully accepted. Townsend VFW Post members will be selling hot dogs, hamburgers, cheeseburgers to hungry concert goers, fried dough, bottled water, and a variety of cold sodas will be offered for sale. Food and beverages will be available from 6:45 to 9:15. Also, a wide selection of homemade cookies, squares, cakes, breads, candies, and pies may be purchased from the VFW auxiliary members to eat while one listens to the concert to enjoy later. There will be some activities for the children at the lawn party, and Townsend bandstand tiles will be available for purchase. The last part is concert goers of all ages have the opportunity to win a stuffed animals and a patriotic money hat.
Thank you. Board correspondence, I have none.
None to discuss now.
Review and sign payroll and bills payable warrants.
I remove the board review and sign payroll and bills payable warrants out of session.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Jim? What was it?
Thank you.
Okay, executive sessions. 5.1, executive session pursuant to General Law, Chapter 30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel regarding the police chief. Do I have a motion?
I move we move into executive session pursuant to General Law C-30A, Section 21A2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, or to consider or conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel or the police chief, and we will not be coming back to open session.
We've got two more too.
Yep, I'll just read them along.
I'll second that. And do we want to just read them all?
Just take them all at once.
Okay.
I'll do number 2. Executive session pursuant to GLC 38 S 21A3 to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting law may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining position or litigating position and the chair so declares. Ask me police union grievance. And last one is pursuant to GLC 30 AS 21A3 executive session to discuss strategy with respect to pending litigation where an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the litigating position of the town, and chair of the board so declares.
She does.
Namely, Doucette and Associates Limited versus Town of Townsend, Worcester Superior Court docket number 1985CV01115A.
And we will not be returning.
And we will not be returning.
Okay, second. Roll call, please.
Wayne Miller, yes.
Sue Licio, yes. Good night, all.